Lots have been happening since we had our last chat and walk around St Neots, where you pointed out various access issues. I should point out that Liz is a self-disabled, but also is the mainstay of Access St Neots, which is aiming to try and make access better for our disabled residents. Liz, a whole catalogue of things have been happening. You've been very busy. Market Square parking, I think there's been an update on the disabled parking bays. The Priory Centre is having some plans which may well affect the disabled and people with access issues. The Town Council is taking some action on the drop curbs, which we pointed out, or you pointed out, near Waitrose, so that was a success. And there was also an issue over, I think, an £80,000 grant for some toilets, specialist toilets and things, which the District Council seemed to have mislaid or not been using. So where should we start? Should we start, well, where do you want to start?
I think start with the Priory Centre maybe, because that's for me the most recent. So looking at the plans for the refurbishment, like they've actually listened for a change. This is the second time round of them kind of doing the refurbishment. I was involved the first time round and that kind of fell through. But as a stakeholder, it's been really interesting to see that they've listened and they actually have architects that know what they're doing in terms of the kind of building it is and access needs. Luckily, I did get to talk to the architects directly and question them on some of the things that I wasn't quite sure on. The good news is that there's going to be a change in places going in, definitely, in the Priory Centre, which is great because the Priory Centre is obviously open quite a lot. So for the public to access that will be amazing.
Just to explain to listeners who might not know, what are changing places?
Well, changing places, basically a facility for people who can't use disabled toilets independently. So they might be somebody who needs a hoist to get in and out of their chair to use facilities, or they may need the changing bed, whether they're children, adults, or also it's quite often used for people who need the extra space as a family who've got disabled adults, children, anyone like that. And yeah, it's an essential part of a disabled adult or children's kind of.
So we will have a changing places at the Priory. And it sounds like, for once, the needs of the disabled in Neots and surrounding areas have been listened to,
yes.
which is...
Yeah, and even, they've gone beyond what I expected, which is amazing, because they're going to put 2 disabled toilets in as well, which I was only expecting the one, because legally you have to have disabled and the changing places. You can't just get rid of the one. And also for the, community entertainment venue, they're going to have actual accessible spaces to watch performances, which is something I can't currently do. You're not going to be parked in an aisle while you're watching. You're actually going to have, spaces, especially for people with mobility issues or in wheelchairs. So yeah, and access out onto the terrace as well would be a lot better, hopefully. So yeah, it's looking good. So I'm pleased with that.
Well, that's always good. It's always good to have a win, isn't it? That's something we didn't used to see. So from that point of view, Liz, a success, beaming smile on your face. But when we come back, we're going to talk about some more problematical issues that your members and yourself and others are facing, which again seem to have been, shall we say, not taken on board your views and thoughts and needs by some of the people that should be listening. Back with Liz Owen from Access in St Neots, and we spoke earlier about the plans for the Priory Centre, and Liz was quite enthused about it. I fear that if we talk about plans for the Market Square coming up, £15 million being spent as part of the High Street improvement plans, not quite so positive about what may or may not be happening there. You've now managed to see the plans. What's your thoughts?
Not happy. I mean, it's frustrating because apparently these plans have been available to look at since the spring, which, although they're, you probably find them online just by searching, it's not that easy to find them. I'm quite frustrated, mostly with the disabled parking side of things. The rest of the design, I know people have their thoughts, but with parking, we were led to believe that from HDC directly that nothing was set in stone in terms of where the spaces would be and what they would look like when they're finished. The relocation of the spaces is actually a little bit more positive because that's something that they were able to change, I think, last minute, because they have to obviously shut the Market Square, and while they're doing that, they're putting almost the entire Priory Lane car park as disabled. So there's going to be 10 spaces there, and then Tanyard are getting a few and Tebbets Road are getting a few, and they have taken on board the fact that we've said that it needs to be as close as possible to where the Market Square is, because their view was disabled parking, I think they thought, was just wheelchair users, whereas you've got people with mobility issues who use sticks or crutches or rollators who can walk, but they just can't walk far. So they listened to that side, but it looks like the finished plans just are going to be these back-to-back spaces on the street, which are no good, because although they say they're going to be wider than normal, someone like me who has a ramp, who gets in and out of the back of the vehicle I drive, and people who have side ramps and all that kind of thing are going to be going out into the road or getting blocked in. And to be honest, everyone is fuming and nobody is happy about it, because HDC again said, oh, nothing's set in stone. They're saying, oh, it was too late to change anything because it was all confirmed in the spring, which for me, as the work I do, kind of, you do get lied to a lot from councils and higher up places, and they had said to us, I even did the walkabout with Dean Ferguson and a few other people who were like, oh yes, we could definitely make the spaces so they were at a diagonal, we can definitely move this around and put those over here. Well, that was obviously not true, because they know from the plan that apparently the plans are not changeable at all. It makes me fuming.
Sorry, when we walked around, the problem was that there were 8 spaces I think they're going to put along the outside of the market square. There were a couple of thousand disabled people in St Neots. Your group has a few hundred members, so it's quite an active lobby group. I don't think you were consulted about your needs. I know from personal experience that if you have a wheelchair ramp at the back of your vehicle, people come right behind you. You can't get in and out of your car. You need to have a couple of metres to get the ramp out. If you've got back-to-back parking, inevitably people are going to park closer to you. It just seems thoughtless. After all this, still able-bodied people seem to be not listening and making decisions which affect 2,000 out of 36,000 people is quite a substantial number, and just don't take on board your needs.
No, and they even admitted, the council, that they should have done, but it's only really been since the last 6 months that I really heavily got involved with kind of constantly asking the council for updates, and they definitely did not consult any disabled groups that I'm aware of when they were planning all of this. And people even now are saying, well, we're going to avoid coming into the market square altogether now because we can't park safely. We don't want to be wheeling out into the road or getting elderly people out, in their car into the road. And for me, I do get blocked in a lot, even with a huge sticker on the back of my car saying, please leave 3 meters, because people also don't realise that you don't just need to open the boot and get the ramp out. You need to actually get your chair around the ramp and up and safely. So you need 3 to 4 meters even at the back of your car, and there's no way you could fit 8 of those size spaces.
It's £15 million. It's a project that has been talked about for 2 or 3 years, and I find it staggering that they have gone ahead with issues that affect the very people that we're discussing, the very people who are in the market square. We're not ordinary parkers who can park anywhere. They know there's going to be an impact on those people, and yet they've blindly gone ahead and fobbed people off and just really haven't it's not the question they haven't listened, they haven't been flexible at all, because I bet this plan that they're doing now is exactly the same as it was when they first drew it up. So any consultation they claim to have, who have they consulted with? They clearly haven't spoken to disabled people and the most highly visible disabled group in the town. So who are these people they've consulted with? Because they haven't spoken to the people impacted, have they?
No, and they claim to have done extensive research. But again, they say they'll do this in the future, but it's a bit late for that now, because I can't imagine any bigger projects that they're going to be doing, such as the whole market square. And unfortunately, although I like our group to be positive and making changes, it's again HDC that are at fault.
I think a lot of people will be angry that when it actually gets money spent, and it's a substantial amount of money, £15 million is substantial, but to go ahead with a project, I don't really understand who they've consulted on this, and clearly you're angry about it, and clearly, knowing you, Liz, you won't be going quietly about this, so good luck with HDC and the people who are behind this, because I'm sure their emails are going to be very busy. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, Liz, we'll be talking about another issue that I'm not actually overly happy with, are you?
No.
We've had the good, we've had the bad, and now we're going on to the not too sure about that. Welcome back to my guest today, Liz Owen. And we heard earlier about the pluses with the Priory Centre and the minuses with the market square. A bit of a plus to start out with, drop curbs. I think you've had a bit of a win. We went out together wandering around and you highlighted the drop curb issues, like places like Waitrose. I think somewhere in the high street your wheelchair hit a drop curb and nearly knocked me over, as well as you nearly came over. Yeah. They have actually listened to this. Give us an update to listeners. What's actually happening with the drop curb issue?
Very recently the Town Council voted in favour of the work going ahead and partially funding it. There was a bid that thankfully, thanks to Steve Ferguson, that went in, and I think the district and county council mostly fund it. And it's basically to improve the pavement access and drop curbs, whether they exist or not. It's to have a better, generally in the town centre, but it's just amazing that they've actually listened. And I wasn't aware this fund was available until quite recently. So yeah, it will be definitely going ahead. I'm assuming in the new year. So.
And that's going to benefit people in wheelchairs, presumably people with mobility scooters, people with access issues, and even mothers with pushchairs, I guess. I think it's Neots Town Council, I believe there are part funding with the district council, but this money's going big positive. I'm sure your constant activism and drawing attention to these issues has helped with that, so hat tip to you for that one. Hat drop now. We've had the hat tip to them for taking action in this thing. Something about an £80,000 grant. We spoke earlier about changing places, and these are these special toilets which are accessible and useful and are needed. Tell us a little bit about you discovering £80,000 plus handed to the district council on a plate to provide one of these much needed things, but it's not going to happen because, tell us what the because is, Liz.
Because all I know is they haven't been quick enough. So way back in 2021, the government basically created a Changing Places Fund for any big councils to apply for if they wanted a Changing Places facility. These things aren't cheap, but yeah, depending on the size of the town or city, government decide how much money is given. HDC put in a bid for this money, saying they wanted a Changing Places in Hinchinbrook Country Park as part of the refurbishment of the cafe play area bit of the park. As they created it, I assume they thought it was like a Revolution or a Mobiloo, but you can't just buy these things. So I was really glad to see they got the money, £80,000 from the government. It has to be solely used for that. I was straight on to them saying, you know, what are you going to do? What are the plans? And just silence for quite a long time until I applied for a freedom of information about what they applied for, because anyone can see that, the plans they put to the government, and it all looked pretty good. And then nothing at all until summer of when the plans finally went in. So we don't know what happened between when they got the money. They had 18 months of basically nothing. I know the planning department is way behind, but it's their own land and their money. So I'm kind of confused about that. And especially as nobody was quite willing to come forward and say, oh, you know, this is the timeline of it. They only had until January 2024 to use the money. And obviously they have big meetings, and last month had a meeting and it was said that the plans are being withdrawn. And of course this money has to then go back to the government. But they said, oh no, we're very enthusiastic about looking into this and getting this done soon. Go ahead, but we'll be funding it, hopefully, but this will be taxable. And of course the government money isn't taxable. So yeah, not gone down too well.
So basically, due to a lack of urgency or let's be blunt, ineptness, they've been handed £80,000 of free money from the government. It's not something that our taxpayers in St Neots and Huntingdonshire having to pay for. Money to provide something badly needed at Hinchinbrook Country Park, where they were planning to upgrade the cafe and restaurant, include the Changing Places with it. But because they've put the restaurant on hold, they're not going to provide the Changing Places even though they've got the funding for it. However, when they do go ahead, if they go ahead with the cafe, they will then build a Changing Places, but they'll have to do it with money coming from the taxpayer here rather than the free money they had for it to do. Not very good, that, is it really?
No, and especially it does worry me because there was another fund available then the following year, which they applied for on behalf of the town council for the St Neots Changing Places, which I have been told will be going ahead because there's a deadline with that, of course, as well with the money. But again, it's HDC land and HDC have got to approve it. And I really hope that that fund doesn't get affected either, because St Neots really could do with an extra place. Again, it's a park that's used by so many.
This is Riverside
Car Park in St Neots. The plan is to put a Changing Places there and have a whole refurbishment of the existing toilet block. But again, I've been kept in the dark quite a bit by the district council, not so much the town council. But the district council, again, they don't seem to have any want to discuss with the people who are actually going to use the facility at all. So who knows what they're going to build.
I think the solution, Liz, is you'll have to stand as a councillor. You can actually be at the heart of decision making, which I think would not be a bad thing for the people of St Neots. No doubt we'll be speaking again very soon because these issues sadly don't go away. Liz, thanks very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. So 20th of January at the Priory Centre in St Neots, we've got a Disability Awareness Day. It's basically for anyone who wants to learn more about disabled facilities in and around St Neots, whether you have a disability and want to find out more, or whether you're completely unaware of what's available and want to educate yourself a bit. The Town Council, in collaboration with Access in St Neots, is basically running it from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. We're going to have everybody there from Health Watch to AJM wheelchair services. We've got the RNIB, we've got Cambridgeshire Deaf Association, we've got health checks for people, free health checks. There's so many local charities, Voiceability, Little Miracles, Switch Now, just trying to cover as many disabilities as possible. So you can basically come down, chat with them, find out more information, take some leaflet, also feedback on what you would like to see better happening, meet the Town Council, meet me, come and chat. And that's really what it's for. And we're hoping it will become an annual event. So that's the 20th of January, Disability Awareness Day at the Priory Centre in St Neots, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. And you can find out more on social media as well.